Good morning, everyone. So it's a bit windy. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear this audio. If not, I'll just have to dub over a little bit for the rest of the video, but I'm just going to take you on a brief garden tour. I know it's been a little while. Things have grown. Let's get into it. So the cucumbers have completely taken over. With the poles that they're up on, you can at least still sort of have a peek under and see where the cukes are. There's been a few. I've pickled a bunch already, so should get a good produce out of that. These tomatoes are finally starting to ripen. You can see one down here that's just beginning to glow a little bit. When they're really shiny like this, you know they're just about ready to ripen. I've got a whole video on tomato ripening stuff. Now is really the time for that video. I'll probably be doing some of those things next week though, again, just as a refresher. And so, there's another tomato. So I was sick last week and just hadn't had time to make another video this week yet. So, look at this corn. It's massive. This is the blue. I'm gonna actually just take a peek in here just for your benefit. That almost looks like the wrong kind of cob, but well, sometimes they get merged together. Anything's can happen. Got massive silks on them, and look at that. That's a lot of silk. So to pollinate corn, these ones have to shed pollen onto these. I'm not seeing them being really open yet. You're sort of waiting for these things to fall, and then the pollen will begin to be available. You can see from within there's material, so yeah, hopefully we should get a pretty good crop of corn. This corn has stayed upright. The direct sown ones are nowhere near producing this year. I don't think they're gonna make it. But it was a good experiment to see which ones would do well. Some of them are better than others. This one, if we have a really long ear, might. But mostly I'm impressed that they haven't been knocked over, and I'll show you the other corn and you'll know why. Nasturtiums are finally blooming. Potatoes are doing good. Peppers are loaded with pepper babies. This one's getting a little bit sunburnt. It's not the end of the world, but this is why I don't prune any foliage off of my peppers. Some nice jalapenos in here. Oh, and there's a cucumber for lunch. Potatoes are doing good. There's been some nice ones out of there already. I've just been stealing. I haven't dug up an entire potato. I like to just reach in and grab one or two as I need them, rather than digging up a whole potato plant. That way any fruit left on the potato will continue to bulk up. And I say fruit, I mean tubers, but whatever. You know what I mean. The carrots are doing well. Pulling up. This is a red variety. It's a favorite of mine. Let's see if I can pull one up for you. They are a little on the long side, so they have been a little difficult to pull. There we go. That's got to be 8 inches at least. It's a good size. I pulled a couple out that were 10 inches the other day. Not quite as full, or not quite as thick at the top, but nice long, plenty of potential. My peas are just about done. They have done a second blooming. As you can see, there are more peas here, but the second blooming is definitely not as full as the first. So I'm pretty much done with peas. And these are Jacob's Cattle dry bean. So these pods are going to be allowed to fill out all the way and get pretty old and dry. but it's looking like a pretty good production crop this year. We've certainly got plenty of season for them left to dry out all the way, so we should have a pretty good crop of beans off of them. Cauliflower, the broccoli is beginning to wane. There's actually some that are flowering. I'm allowing that. I wanted to save seeds. I'm hoping to start up a bit of a seed swap in our community, and one of the ways I can build that is bringing quite a lot of my own seed. So the broccoli are starting to wane a little bit, but you can see the worms are also getting in here. I've been soaking these in salt water before I do anything else with them. The one good thing about these is that they're open, so like a really tight broccoli head, you might have worms up in the inside of the head that you don't know about. With these ones, it's pretty easy to just spray them off when you're cleaning them. I've got a bunch of peas here going to seed, again, saving seed for future years and for sharing. And my green beans have just started producing. And it looks like there's another small picking to do today. These guys are just about done. I might pull them out soon. And there's some lovely curly-headed cabbage in here, which I can give you a peek of. Yeah, they're looking pretty good. There's been a little bit of bug activity on these, but for the most part, the cabbage moths don't seem to like that variety. That variety is called Melissa. It's a Savoy type. It's got a curly leaf. The bugs seem to have been leaving it alone compared to some of the other varieties. The tomatoes are looking really good. Now this variety is called Cherokee Purple, and I've been a little dissatisfied with it in the past because it's really prone to blossom end rot. It's really prone to cracking and cat facing, and it's not terribly productive. So I actually have another purple variety I'm trialing this year. And this is Thorburns Terracotta. They're sizing up really nicely. I'm starting to see some more fruit being set, so hopefully we'll get some more time for those. Dr. Weish's Yellow, starting to bulk up a little bit. Brandywines. And then these guys, they don't look like much on the surface, but if you poke your head around a little bit, you'll see there is pretty big tomatoes all down this side. This is a good paste tomato. With the grooves in the flesh, it's a little bit of a bugger to take the skin off, so I like to just pulp this one for sauces and things. And then I basically have the same ones in reverse order. We've got, this is a Fiorentino, a Costoluto Fiorentino. We've got a Brandywine over here. There's some big fruit down there. Got a Dr. Weish's Yellow. Not seeing a ton of fruit on this one, but there's a big branch down at the bottom there. Sometimes the suckers actually pay off. And then for the yellow on this side, we actually have a pineapple. And he's productive, but he's not been quite as productive as the Thorburns Terracotta. That one's sort of an orange, well, terracotta color. And then here on this end we have Prudence Purple, which has been a pretty big plant. There's one cracked down here, but for the most part the fruit seem alright, and that one was really cat-faced, so that might have been the reason there. So hopefully those do well, and if they do really well and taste really good, then they'll probably be my permanent switch over. Turnips are getting full of holes in the leaves, but the turnips themselves are looking pretty good. I'm going to try and hold those until the weather gets nice and cool, and that'll make them nice and sweet. Like I said, my peas are nearly done. We're just collecting seed now. I've pulled out all the rest of my cauliflowers. They were actually pretty good size, but the last three I didn't pick out in time, and they were starting to bolt a little bit. But as you may be able to tell through the canvas here, I've got some really nice looking cabbages And my Brussels sprouts have been a little bit destroyed by worms. But I've started spraying them again. Again, I couldn't get out in the garden last week, so some things just get neglected. I'm just trying to get back on top of what I can and not cry about the rest. So there's a nice wall of beans over there. They actually all got knocked over in a storm, and there's some other damage from the storm that you'll see. These tomatoes are splayed all over the place because they're not holding themselves upright anymore, and the storm actually took a major branch off of that tomato back there. But our cutting flowers are starting to bloom, and they just delight me. I think I should have planted more or started them ahead of time. So this is a beautiful aster called Salmon Janina, something along those lines. So a lot of tomatoes on these Amish paste. And then we've got a zinnia called Polar Bear. Beautiful. And these weedy things are really blooming now. Basically all of the onions have been taken out except for those that have flowers on them, because I would like to collect seed. This got knocked over, and my mother and father-in-law were kind enough to come over and help me last week when I couldn't get out and put some reinforcements in. And it looks like I need to tie up another set of strings to keep them upright so I can actually pick them. They're really, really full. They're beginning to bloom, and should be getting some beans off of them soon. And one of the more exciting things is we've got melons and peppers in this bed. The peppers are, they've set a lot of fruit. They're not all very huge, but they're definitely setting a lot of fruit and getting pretty tall. And also we have here a lovely cantaloupe. We've got some watermelons. And we just might have enough season to actually mature them. There's another little watermelon baby right there. So I've got a dark-skinned watermelon and a stripy one. This bed overall has turned out pretty good. There's a nice little watermelon. It's looking good. And there's another little guy. So if we have another month left in the season, I mean, if I can cover these and make sure they don't get any frost for the next 30 days, I would imagine we should get a couple of good ones. And there's this little guy. This guy is called a vine peach. Or a mango melon, I think was the other name for it. So these little zinnias down here kind of got broken onto. You can see there's a big break on that one there. But they're still growing and blooming. And my squash in the corner are starting to bloom finally. The sunset runners have been blooming, as have the scarlet runners. Unfortunately, very few beans. That's a pollination issue. We've had poor pollination this year with the smoke and then the cool weather. The bees haven't been very active. So I've been hand pollinating my pumpkins a lot. Sorry, I just gotta catch my breath. The snow peas are definitely getting towards done, although they do still keep setting more. But they're getting progressively smaller, and also this fence, which was only about 2 inches deep into the ground, no longer has any structural stability. And as you can probably see down there, all of my corn has been knocked over and has righted itself. So it looks like a straight row of corn, and it looks short, but that's only because it's about 3 feet sideways. So it is actually as tall as me if I straighten them up, but I'm not going to. They are also producing silks and tassels. So we've got another couple good weeks of weather, we should definitely get some nice corn on these. And these were direct sown. So, there you go. It's always this time of year that I think about how things are doing and how I would do them differently in the future. So, the pumpkin patch. There are going to be some changes to the pumpkin patch next year. This is a very weedy mess. And it's kind of difficult, if not near on impossible, to weed the pumpkins when they're at this size. As you'll be able to tell, the vines are running well over the mulch and onto the rest of the yard there. So they're a little difficult to contain. But we have pumpkins. It's going to be a pumpkin tour. Alright, cootie squash. There's a little jack-o'-lantern in there. I think the rest of these are all jacks. So it doesn't look like much, right? It doesn't look like a lot of pumpkins. Doesn't look like big pumpkins. And then you get just a little peek. And there's a pumpkin. And then, oh yeah, there's one. He's a little big. He's doing good. Like I said, we've had pollination problems. I have been seeing bees last couple of days. That's really encouraged me. In fact, this guy right here, look at him. Honing in on his... Oh, and he's hiding from me now. He's like, I don't want to be on camera. Anyways, we've got some pumpkins now. Been trying to keep on top of just coming out in the morning and pollinating, even if I see bees, just to make sure that I have a good crop. Because of course I'm doing this for commercial purposes. I sell these. And so I like to make sure I have a decent volume, decent yield. There is one giant pumpkin in here. I mean, he doesn't look very giant, but he's a giant variety. I think he needs a longer season than we have. And I should probably have started him ahead, but I didn't. So yeah. Here we go. Here's the one kind of corn. These are just about dried up, so that tells you this corn is pollinated and finished. It's a really purple. Be curious to see if we actually get different colored kernels on there. So we've got a cheese variety here. Got a nice white, flat white. I actually pulled a really big one off already. The trick to keeping your white pumpkins white is when they're nice and white is to take them inside and put them out of the sun. The sun will eventually yellow them. Got quite a few red Cinderellas. They're looking orange at the moment, but they are going to mature to an even darker reddish orange. That's why they're called red. And we have a couple of these. Now they have a French name that I can't pronounce. And they also have a common name in English, which would be fairy tale. They look really dark green, and as they cure over time, they slowly take on an oaken color and texture. They look like they've been carved out of wood. Really, really cool. Last time it took till Christmas for them to actually color, but these are a little bit further along, so I'm hoping we'll get some color before then. There's a couple of them in there as well. And then, I'm not sure if you can see this big pink lady in there. She's hiding a little bit. I'll get you closer up from the other side. It's a little bit risky walking the pumpkin patch these days. So, this pink behemoth is another French name. Anyways, she's pink and warty, and she is making warts. And warts, if I'm not mistaken, are a concentration of sugars in the pumpkin that break through the skin. So warts are not a bad thing on your pumpkins. Anyways, there's a bunch of them in there as well. We need to come out and pollinate this guy, because I think that one is possibly one of these. And one of these is one of the pumpkins I've never grown before. This is a variety of pumpkin called Thai Kang Cob. And they sort of look like they're made of lava, which is really cool. And I pollinated a pumpkin in here the other day, and of course now that it's not flowering anymore, I can't find it. Oh well. You'll see updates of it once it is big enough to be found. And the blues are coming along really nicely, actually. See, this is one of the bigger ones. He's a nice dark green. And you're thinking to yourself, blue, why is it blue? Well, here's another one. It's light green. It's a little bit older. And here is the most matured one. Tell me, does that look blue to you? Because it's getting sort of a gray color, and next to the green it definitely looks blue. Very neat. We also have quite a few minis coming along. There's one right here. That one's pretty well done. The pies are just starting to produce. I'm hoping we actually get some. They've not been super impressive this year, but maybe everything else is just that far ahead. And everything is so weedy. Definitely we're gonna have to work on maintenance next year. Sometimes things just get ahead of you and you can't catch up. So these are our artichokes. There's at least 2 of them forming buds. So evidently the refrigerator thing we did this spring worked, tricked it into thinking it already had survived 1 year. And we should be getting at least 2 artichokes. I'm stoked about. I'm going to give you a brief view of the weedy flowers, and then I'll be signing off for this week. Snapdragons, I've been deadheading them. They've definitely finished for the most part. The stalks are glorious. They start blooming and they just keep blooming. And my pretty kale. Look at this thing. Huge. Awesome. And there's my night scented stalk looking like the weed it is. The perennial flowers have pretty well finished. The rose is still going, and the betony and dianthus are still blooming, but everything else is pretty well finished in there. And hopefully next year we'll see some good coverage on that pergola, pavilion, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Also, I bought a new hat. 90% of wearing hats is just confidence. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the garden tour. I know I'm working on more content. It's very slow coming. It's a difficult time of year for me to produce content, so just be patient, and we'll see ya.